So I wanted to give an update about how things are going in Korea. I've been in Korea for about 6 weeks now, and I'm doing well in my job and really getting comfortable and settled there. And as you saw from the apartment tour, we've definitely been getting everything furnished for our place. But honestly, at this point, I have to say I'm very surprised of how Korea's been for me so far. I am pretty shocked how the difficulty I'm having communicating with my family. So last year I met my family for the first time, and there was definitely some challenges we faced in trying to communicate with one another. My family, they speak Korean, and my twin speaks a little bit of English, but for the most part, we are always translating through Google Translator or through Naver Translator. And so we don't really get that sentiment of really understanding each other's thoughts. Everything that we say is more or less baby talk, hungry, food or whatever have you. So now that we live here, we've had some good experiences. When we first came, my parents picked us up and we went to Seoul and we stayed with them for a couple days at their place, and that was fine. And recently, my sister and my younger sister and mom visited us in Daejeon, and the trip was okay. They came and I was really anxious about it, and unfortunately the day that they came I was very sick, and so I was trying to put on a smiley face, and I was very excited to show my mom the place because she took me here initially, so she saw the condition it was in. It was super dirty, and then I wanted her to see how much we've cleaned and added and kind of put our own touches on the place. And so when they arrived, we went out to a restaurant because they were very hungry, and that was fine. We found a buffet, which is usually where we end up eating with my family because they want to make sure that Eric and I are eating food that we like, and it's really thoughtful. And we tried to offer and pay, but they wouldn't allow us. And so we talked a little bit throughout dinner, just very small, but it was mainly quiet. And then they came back to our apartment, and then they pretty much left, and they said that they didn't want to deal with rush hour traffic. So at any rate, I was so thrilled to see them, and they brought gifts, which was really nice. My mom bought Eric and I jewelry for last year, but she couldn't mail it to Korea. They would not allow her. So she was really happy to give us the gifts finally a year later. I ended up getting a beautiful gold bracelet, and Eric had a really nice gold necklace, and I'll have to show you a picture. He looks really, really, really nice with it. But at any rate, they gave us gifts, which was nice. My younger sister, she brought us a case of beer, of Cloud beer, and my other sister bought me some lip gloss and bought Eric some face cream. So that was really nice and welcoming. And then before we left, they bought us a huge watermelon and just left it for us. But what happened is, a week later, I get a message from my twin saying that, why do you have an attitude? We drove all this time. It's really hard to arrange everyone's schedule. We come to Daejeon and, you're sick, and, I only have one day off a week because she has 2 days off, but she never has them back to back because she works in retail. And so she said, and I don't want to go to Daejeon if you're not feeling well. And then also stated that when we came, you didn't have fruit ready, or you didn't cook for us, and you didn't know what restaurant to go to. And she said, this is a Korean culture. That really caught me off surprise, because Eric and I offered them water when they came, and we offered to cut up a pear, and we didn't know of a restaurant to take them to, because right now we have only gone to 2 restaurants really, and those are E-Mart. They're basically food courts with pictures, and then we can point at the picture or take a picture of the food and then go and order at the counter. Otherwise, we don't eat at Korean restaurants, and I don't feel like taking my family to fast food for the first meal when they come and see me. So we actually were thinking about going somewhere in Daejeon because my family had never been here. So we wanted to go and take them to the Arboretum, and our plan was after we went and did that, we would just go find something nearby, which is really easy for my family to do. But we don't eat out at a lot of Korean restaurants because we can't read the language yet. We can't read any of the writing. So basically she went on to say that, just that she was disappointed, and I felt really ridiculed, and that she was taking everything I do out of context, and that's not who I am. I'm trying my best. I moved all the way to Korea to try to establish a relationship with my family and twin, and she ends up being the person that is the most distant. And I was really, really upset about it, and I still am. So I have a coworker of mine who is Korean American from California, and she translated some letters. So I wrote a letter to my mom and dad, letting them know just how I've been feeling, and that, how much I really adore them and respect them and admire them for being so welcoming to Eric. And these are things that I've really harbored for the last year that I couldn't really say to them. And we've had 2 translators, but they're not going to be able to convey what I've been feeling this whole time. And I also wanted to reiterate why I moved to Korea. And I also wrote a letter to my younger sister, and in that letter I just explained how happy I was to be able to go to her wedding. It was a dream of mine. When I went back to the States, I knew that she was close to get married, and so that's one thing I thought about, is if only I could come back and attend her wedding, that would be the best thing ever. And it really was amazing to be a part of that, and to be with the family, and to get to meet more of my relatives and be introduced to them, and also just be, near my twin, watching everything and being in all the family pictures that they took. That was amazing. I also wrote a letter to my twin, just explaining that I'm sorry for the way that she feels. One thing that she's frustrated about is when I left Korea last year, I said I would try to learn the language, and I would do my very hardest to learn as much as I could. And when I came back here, she was disappointed because she thought that she feels like I broke a promise to her and that I didn't learn the language. So I have done a lot of self-studying on my own, but it's not to the extent where I can speak in sentences. I mainly have a higher vocabulary, and also I tried really intensively to learn on my own, which was hard. But in the letters, I did convey that, maybe Eric and I should take some time to ourselves, and we don't want to burden the family. We feel like we're burdening them because when the family gets together, there's a lot of awkward silence. They think they have to always entertain us or do something with us, or they're always worried if we're not happy. And also, the language is so difficult, carrying around a phone and translating everything that we say, unless my twin's there, and her English is pretty good enough to where she can translate, partway. So we decided that we're just going to try to maybe keep some distance and see if that helps while we're trying to learn the language. So one thing that's great about living here is there's a free English class or a Korean class every weekend. So we attended our first class, and I think that's going to be really helpful. And additionally, there's another class I hear that's available, and so I'm going to look into that as well. But I'm definitely determined, and I have a lot of free time, that we're really going to learn the language, and I really want to try to connect with, my family, but also try to connect with my twin. I just feel like she thought that when I came here it would be different than it is, and it's hard because I don't feel like she's giving me enough time to adjust. I sent her this really heartfelt letter, and her response was, "Thanks, if I have time, I will learn English," and that was it. So I'm at a loss for words, truthfully, about how everything is going here. The other thing that's a challenge is being a Gyopo here, and being looking Korean but being American. And most of the time I feel so uncomfortable in my skin because I don't speak the language. And so, for instance, if we get in a taxi, Eric will call the taxi over, and he'll show him a picture of where we want to go, and it has Korean writing. And then sometimes the cab driver will just ignore it and not want to look at his phone and immediately turn their head to me and start speaking Korean. And so, I have to tell them, like, I'm Migook, I'm American, or I have to say I don't speak Korean, which I just learned that phrase recently. Or if we're at a store and I'm looking at anything, because there are so many Koreans that are really, really helpful, that they'll just come start talking to me about, if I look at anything. And so I feel like I'm always cautious and I'm not as outgoing as I usually am, because it's so uncomfortable, and then they look at me disappointed, like, why don't you speak Korean? Like, you're obviously Korean. And then I've had some people just go, I'm not gonna mess with you, you don't speak Korean. And the challenge is, I pretty much just don't talk. Or if we're at the supermarket and we're checking out, Eric usually checks out, he pays, and I'm like bagging up our groceries, and then they'll say point card, and Eric says no, and then they'll look at me and say this exact same thing. And so even though Eric is a foreigner, they always look at me and expect me to be able to clearly articulate and explain back to them or answer them correctly. I think that's one of the biggest things, is adjusting to that, and I feel like it's an easy way out to just say, oh, I don't speak Korean. I try to listen to them and look at their body language to try to understand what they're asking me, so that way I can pick up the language as well. Every time I said no when they came up to me, I'm not going to be able to have that interaction and also pick up the language. And I really appreciate Koreans in general for being so patient, because Eric and I were really thoughtful and we really tried to learn the language, and we speak it as best as we can to the people, and they're really patient and gentle and very understanding. And even if our pronunciation seems to be off, which I'm sure it really is, Koreans are just really receptive to that, and they like it when you speak their language. So that is what we're working on currently. And really the purpose behind this channel is because we wanted to connect with other, Korean adoptees in general, and, make a connection with people, because this is really, really challenging, and so many people are in my shoes or have done this, and I feel like we want others who are interested in coming to Korea or, have similar stories to be able to exchange that. And in a later video, I'll talk more about my adoption in general and how I ended up in the States. But today I just wanted to provide an update on how things are going. And my next video, I hope that I'll have a better update and I'll be in a better place overall. But, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I didn't realize it was going to be this hard. But I have to do this. And I also like the way that I'm growing as a person. I'm really being stretched. I'm always outside my comfort zone, going to work and living every day. And so overall, it's been a positive experience. But I'm just looking forward to the day where I can sit down and have dinner with my family and talk and be able to make a strong connection with them. Everything from the letters that I received back from my mom as well as from my sister, it says that, it's uncomfortable when we're together. They want to say so much, but they can't, and that there's so many things that they want to tell us, but they can't, and they don't feel comfortable conveying that with an interpreter. So, thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day. If you like this content, please like and subscribe for more. Bye.